This special edition of Legendary is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial and to receive a free audiobook, just head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker. Seriously. End of the song. Start it over. Yeah, there you go. Technology is hard. Old school graphic plate just for the special. What's up, everybody? Welcome to a special edition of Legendary. Why are we here? What the hell are we doing? Why do we get the old school Arthas up? Oh, well, basically, Blizzard has decided to do a World of Warcraft developer Q&A. Today, they've got the whole crew sitting, waiting, using some technology from like 1973 called Cover It Live to field questions from the internets. Yes, it's a series of tubes, and they have questions about World of Warcraft, and they are here to answer them, and we are here to discuss them. Joining me, as always, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, it's Mr. Josh Allen, a.k.a. Lort. And streaming in from a public library, which is her home, yes. It is Olivia DeGrace.
I live among the books.
Among the books. All right, so what the heck are we doing here? So Blizzard World of Warcraft developer Q&A. We're about, I don't know, 2 minutes away maybe from this whole thing started. So basically they're using this live blogging technology. It's super secret, highly advanced, deep blue kind of stuff. It's way beyond me. I'm lucky I can get this working. Zarheim actually got his icon in there, which I'm actually really surprised that that's even possible. That must be an expansion.
It just goes off of Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That must be the expansion to Cover It Live.
Wow.
So basically what they're going to do, though, who do they have here standing by, like sitting around? Do we know exactly who the crew is, the dev crew?
It is, if I remember everybody off the top of my head, I don't have it up at the moment, but we've got Brian Holinka, who's the senior PvP developer, Greg Street,
he's the new guy.
Designer. Yeah, Brian Holinka is the new guy.
Brian Holinka, the new guy.
Mm-hmm. Greg Street, lead systems designer, aka Ghostcrawler. Dave Kosak, who is the lead quest designer. Cory Stockton, I don't remember exactly what his title is.
Lead content designer.
There we go.
And
Ian Hazzikostas, who is
lead encounter designer.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our
it's quite a sort of Blizzard All-Stars team, actually. There's this is all the top guys. It's quite.
We'll talk about Blizzard All-Stars.
Oh my gosh.
Oh snap. All right, so I will keep you posted.
Have you got the gopher? Have you got the gopher queued up? That's the important question.
I don't, but I need to get it now. Thank you for that. Let me find that. Let's see
look.
Yeah, let's see. Where's Dramatic Gopher? There you are. Okay.
Oh, we've just received confirmation of what Brian Holinka's blue name is going to be.
Oh, really?
Up on the screen or not? Because it's scrolling down instead of up.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Desvin.
Desvin.
Desvin?
Desvin.
Desvin.
Can we get Kosak grabbing the Bozak?
What?
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 The you said a strange thing. What?
All right, let's see. First up, so Zarheim says, hello, welcome one and all to Cover It Live World of Warcraft developer Q&A over the next 45 plus minutes. 5 of our most esteemed developers will be fielding your questions on a vast variety of topics. This is a moderated chat and community manners. Bashiok, hate that guy. Kritho, another one, Daxari, Regarius, and I will be helping to ensure the developers get as many of our questions as possible, man. All right, so let's get going. Comment from the guest. What is the quote fantasy for a retribution paladin in your eyes? Let's see if I can get this thing lower. Ghostcrawler says the classic knight in shining armor, the intersection of warrior and priest, the protector of the innocent, inquisitor punisher, the champion of the light who uses offense over defense. Kind of sounds like Josh.
Yeah.
No, I play a warlock nowadays.
Do you
really?
Like,
you don't play your paladin anymore?
People around me.
His days of the Inquisitor Punisher are over, unfortunately.
Trying to adjust so we can see this a little bit better. Sorry. Let's see. All right. How's
it's kind of what point do you think the sarcasm kicked in that Ghostcrawler response?
This is right from the start, I think. Wow, it's going to go quick.
Wow,
Start
they're going
reading.
like stink.
Somebody read one. Elizabeth, read something. Elizabeth,
you have mentioned before that you are... I'll be Elizabeth. You have mentioned before that you are able to compensate for the increase in item levels. Has the recent item level jumps led to more talks on the whole great item squish, first proposed during Mist's alpha? And Ghostcrawler responds, we think the item level inflation has worked fine in MOP. We haven't given up on the idea of a squish, though TBH, we were hoping to see even more demand from players.
Yeah, that leads into something they were talking about originally, where they were like, by the end of the expansion, we expect that people will be demanding the items.
Yeah, they're going to be all over it. Definitely. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know.
We'll talk about it on Legendary later.
We'll talk about it on Legendary later.
Go. Josh, grab
speed.
Battlegrounds such as Warsong Gulch and Twin Peaks, players are focused more on farming middle or getting as many killing blows as possible rather than completing objectives. Any thoughts on trying to make Battleground objectives or tasks more appealing? For example, you gain 5 conquest points for killing the flag carrier or returning the flag. Brian Holinka says, we've talked about revising how we reward honor in a way that promotes players focusing on objectives. We have to be careful of how we do this, since more passive things like guarding an objective in Arathi Basin are important and help your team win.
That's an interesting one.
SWTOR had the awards that you could get for doing stuff. Something like that could be cool.
Yeah, I can see a bigger problem with people like botting and farming points if they make it, like, they have to make defending a reward because that's something you ought to do. So that could end up with botting problems. There's another comment coming in saying, I really, really want to see Naga as a playable race.
I want to take that one because he's got a great answer.
Sorry. I'll tell you what, you can read the answer. I'll read the question.
Ghostcrawler says, okay, yeah.
I really, really want to see Naga as a playable race. Every time I ask if they ever will be, I always get non-yes or no answers that just leave me hanging. Do you think Naga could be a playable race, yes or no?
Ghostcrawler says, could? Yes, they are cool. It would present some unique challenges, such as a lack of pants.
That's not a challenge.
That's not a challenge. Challenge accepted.
That's a buff. Let's see. Next, I'll take this one from Thunderwolf. Thunderwolf says, any plans of putting all CCs on the same DR would be much nicer in PvP if you can't be feared, stunned, dead. Josh, why don't you take that answer?
Brian Holinka says, we don't think this is a very good solution, especially with a number of CCs in the game. Ultimately, it would lead to casting spells ending with an immune message, and that doesn't feel good. But we do appreciate that players aren't happy with the current state of crowd control, and we're talking about how to fix it and make the DR system easier to understand. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see how they try to do that. Shall I jump in with Magdalena the DK?
Sure.
Who says, hey folks, I have a question concerning the model for legendary items we've seen used this expansion. How do you feel the way the questline rewards have come so far? About the way, the questline and rewards have come so far. Will everyone who's been working on the items since 5.0 get a legendary in 5.4? Or will there be a hard choice guilds need to make concerning who gets the final form? And he says the answer is that everyone will eventually be able to get them. Players who put in more effort will generally get them first. Yay.
Josh is happy.
Happy Josh Allen.
No more one-person legendary.
Yeah, God, no more guild drama.
Yeah.
All right, let's see.
God.
Go. Which one are you going with?
From Awesome. His name is Awesome
Man. Awesome Man.
There's been a lot of talk of the Alliance. Holy crap, Dave Kosak said a lot of words.
Wow.
There's been a lot of talk on the Alliance being shortchanged lore-wise this expansion and the previous expansion and the one before that. Are there any plans to change this? AKA, where is the fist-pumping moment? Dave Kosak says, I think the Alliance has had some strong moments this expansion. Jaina's arc is interesting. It's nice to see her engaged in world events again. Dalaran sequence is pretty awesome. Alliance win. More time with Varian and Anduin than any other expansion. Though if your complaint is that they've been human-heavy with the lore, they're guilty. An informal survey of our team reveals that most of us are human. All right, good to know.
Good to know.
Do they have Naga on the team? Is that why
they have pantsless Nagas?
Yeah. When we tried to figure out the story arc for this expansion, we wanted to focus on war, and we thought after Cataclysm, we really needed an Alliance win. Well, thanks. We're getting to invade a capital city and overthrow its war chief, something that's never happened before. Obviously, we need to spend some time developing the major expansion villains. We're seeing a lot of Garrosh. The overall story depicts the Alliance drawing together while the Horde is splintering apart. By 5.4, the Alliance war machine is hitting the beaches of Durotar, having softened them up with wetworks and advanced fun stuff. Really focused on Varian, Jaina, and Anduin this time around. We'll be able to spotlight other characters in the future.
Missy will go read between the lines as fast as possible.
Yeah, exactly. She's already reading.
Comment from guest. Will we see more of Gul'dan in the future? Isn't he dead? Looks at red shirt guy.
No, he survived, and he's pretty dead.
Yeah.
His
not like
skull
Gandalf.
is actually an item in the game that you can loot. He's pretty dead.
Yeah, he's not Gandalf dead. He's Dumbledore dead. Spoilers.
Wow.
So, comment from Dread. Why do Warriors Arms and Fury still have moves that require shields and thus macros? You think a Master of Arms or a Raging Berserker could hit a fireball back like a baseball? Link could do it. And Ghostcrawler says, shields are cool. We'd like to do more with them for Paladins and Shaman too. We agree that macros aren't an awesome way to handle shields. We'd rather do more with a base UI. Imagine you had a shield slot on your character pane, even if you didn't have it out at the moment, something along those lines.
Oh.
Interesting. Dual wield Shaman tanking spec.
They had the relic slot. They got rid of that.
Yeah.
Bring it back and put shields in there.
Yeah.
From John Lacey, how will cross-realm zones work in the new Baron's Quest Hub? Seems like it could get pretty crowded. To which Dave Kosak said, the current plan is for Barons to not CRZ at the launch of 5.3. We can always turn that off or on if we want to. Good.
Yeah, good. That's going to be a crazy place otherwise. Magdalena DK jumps in with another one saying, question for Ian and the encounter designers. Now that Raiden has been defeated by a number of guilds around the world, what are your thoughts about the success of this encounter? With its limited attempts and accessibility, can we expect to see more such encounters in the future? Mixed thoughts about Raiden. The sense of mystery surrounding him was pretty cool. The first guilds that took down Heroic Lei Shen had no idea what to expect when that Great in Primordius' room opened, and after the grueling pace that some guilds set in blazing a path through the main Throne of Thunder progression, it gave them a chance to relax a bit, while still retaining a competitive mindset. The encounter itself had some bugs and tuning issues that were regrettable, and that's ultimately our failing. Clever raiders often work out unforeseen solutions to the problems presented. Go away thing. By encounters, and unfortunately the right way to do Raiden ends up being one that bypasses half the mechanics on the encounter. But with an environment of limited attempts and competition between guilds, retuning the encounter on the fly in order to correct that would have been problematic. So overall, a mixed bag. Wouldn't expect to see heroic only and or limited attempt bosses become a regular fixture. Good. But it's something we may revisit in the future, applying lessons learned from past experience as always.
Symptoms may cause anal leakage and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Please see your doctor if any of this persists.
Wow. Okay, then.
Kosak with the Bozak. All right, next up. This one in from Gnome Stories. There has been lots of talk recently about incentivizing more players to take part in rated PvP, but some players just prefer the freer, more chaotic nature of world PvP and random battlegrounds. Will you bear in mind that it would be a shame to compromise these aspects of PvP in favor of pushing more people towards the rated systems? Desmond says, absolutely. Even in ranked PvP, the majority of players have the default cap, so we understand that many players are not hardcore competitors. More than world PvP, unrated battlegrounds are the primary casual PvP experience in WoW, and we try to support that experience as much as possible. Ooh, the red shirt guy.
It's the red shirt guy. He's here at last. He says, cut content is pretty ubiquitous in WoW, Abyssal Maw, Ajol Narub, Path of the Titans, etc. If you can say, what were some of the things cut from MOP and its patches? To which Cory Stockton Mumper replies, we honestly did not cut much from MOP. We were very happy with the amount of content that we delivered. We thought about the item squish, but ended up holding off. That was probably one of the biggest things. And a picture of lovely jewelry.
I'm not surprised that they didn't cut much.
Yeah, they just put it all in. Yeah, how much would they make if they were cutting stuff?
Yeah. Janata 5, do you plan on addressing the server population issues soon, or are you just planning on exploiting it to make further revenue off of server transfers? Ladies and gentlemen, that is a loaded question.
Yes,
so
just
loaded.
a little
so
agenda
loaded.
there.
Greg Street says, we do have plans, and we are actively, as in I was in a meeting on it yesterday, working on a plan. We don't want to share that plan until we are reasonably confident that it's going to work. We want to be clear that we don't think the experience for players on very low pop realms, which includes very imbalanced factions on otherwise active realms, is a good one. We want to solve it. So if it's It sounds like they have something else crazy coming up. Because remember before they were talking about this, and they were like, we don't want to talk about what it is yet. And then they had cross-realm zones.
Yeah.
Now they're like,
surprise!
This does kind of allude to something a little bit bigger. We can't miss this. Zarheim says, special thanks to Bashak for finding images with captions and coming up with the polls. Thanks, Bash.
Special thanks. Special thanks,
Special
Bash.
thanks.
In other words, special thanks to Bashak for interrupting everybody.
Comment from Newman Justin 40. Who is the monster behind the Throne of Thunder trash? They are truly evil and deserve a raise. Watcher says, we actually contracted out the creation of the equally epic yet non-loot dropping non-boss mobs in Throne of Thunder to a giant snail. I think we did a pretty good job.
Man, +1 for equally epic yet non-loot dropping non-bosses.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent.
Good job. Diatinium says, regarding professions, what are your feelings on the idea of separating gathering professions from other crafting-based professions? To which Ghostcrawler responds, we like gathering professions. I think it's more fun to explore and level up when you have a gathering profession. Not sure we're ready to pull the handle on everyone getting a gathering prop, but it is something we discuss. We have a different solution that hopefully isn't too clever for its own good that we are currently exploring.
Man.
Wow, this is like
stuff out of this.
Revelations.com.
Yeah.
This Parasite. Is like, you better start making legendary notes now, because it might be delayed.
We're just going to copy paste this chat. We're just going to copy paste.
Can we just cut the rest of this so I can get started on legendary notes? No. Parasite. Would it be possible to open more BGs at lower levels? AB and WSG just aren't enough. I'd love to see AV at least at the beginning. Something big. Brian says, Battlegrounds are expansion content, and most of them are tied to their relative expansions. It's why you don't see them open up into higher levels, but it's certainly something we could consider for the future. Give me Battle for Gilneas from the start, and I will do nothing but that ever again.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome.
Comment from Wow says, regarding heroic scenarios, are there any differences between the normal and heroic difficulty of a scenario besides extra health and damage for mobs, i.e. greater mob density or additional abilities? Mumper says there are unique bosses, trash abilities, and obviously the objectives.
Mm-hmm. And Fojar says, following the fall of Garrosh, will the Alliance be turning its attention to reclaiming its lost territory in the northern eastern kingdoms? I speak primarily of Lordaeron, Gilneas, and Strongard. And Dave Kosak Fargo responds, this is something we struggle with because after Cataclysm, we seriously question the time investment of redoing old zones, fair enough. Presumably from a lore standpoint, the Horde is going to have to back down from areas on the edge of conquest, particularly Ashenvale. But we don't want to redo that zone. It's an important Horde level up area, and even if we did redo it, we'd still have to have quests. It couldn't just be night elves / dancing. On a related note, how would you guys be willing to sacrifice a new zone in the next expansion for us to redo Gilneas as an Alliance-only zone? What gameplay would we get out of it? So it's an open question for us. How do we show the impact of the war without redoing zones that we just redid for Cataclysm?
Yeah, especially when Cataclysm, the 1-60 revamp, cost them so much at the end already. That's a big question. Guest question. How many bosses will 5.4 have? To which Ian says, we're pretty happy with the overall size and epic feel of the Throne of Thunder raid, so in that ballpark. Yay! No more 7 boss raid instances.
Yeah, I really saw that for a chuckle.
Comment from Dragon or Dagum. I have no questions, simply a comment. Thank you for the wonderful game you have all crafted. Ghostcrawler says, you're quite welcome. Keep playing and we'll keep giving you something awesome to play. I'll take another one because that one was kind of lame. Just kiss ass. Trike Stealer says, should we expect the Siege of Orgrimmar to be moved back to prolong the expansion? Mumper says, nope. We are feeling really happy with the pace of our patches, and all signs indicate we will keep moving at that pace for the foreseeable future.
Wow.
So, BlizzCon announcement. Next expansion release date.
Yeah, exactly. Next expansion releases at BlizzCon. There you go. Opening the shop. Comment from Henry C. Is there any chance of engineers seeing the new crafted item in 5.4? That is the plan, says Ghostcrawler, though I will be honest, we're not sure we can make the Skyclaw work. Oh. We're currently working on a different engineering map. Stay tuned. It's not Skyclaw, and we disappointed.
Damn. Yeah. Damn you.
Yeah.
Sluggo.
That's such a good thing.
Question. Random heroics not so heroic. Seems that 3 of the 9 mop dungeons, and he lists of several of them, show up a disproportionate amount of time when queuing for random heroics. In 5.2, VP bonuses were added for all three, suggesting WoW's design team saw something worth addressing there as well. Can you speak to this at all? Are there factors that can skew LFG toward particular dungeons, and are there any immediate plans to tinker with the system? Ian Hazzikostas says random dungeons are random? The valid point.
Clues in the name?
The valid point bonuses were added to a handful of dungeons and scenarios based on their length. Since when players queue random in order to get Valor, we didn't want it to feel like a penalty when the loading screen for a lengthier instance popped up. Thank you very much for that.
About time, honestly. Like getting into Shadowpound, it's like, oh god. Yeah. And the thing is, it's just you remember the ones you hate. That's what it is. You remember the ones where you're like, oh no, you don't remember the 9 times that you got one of the cool ones.
Diatenum says, regarding random battlegrounds, when observing how other PvP environments handle player progression, do you think WoW might overemphasize the importance of player victory? Desmond says, battlegrounds are objective-based team activities, and the best way to incentivize players to play the game properly is by rewarding players primarily for victory. If we incentivize anything else, players will focus on that instead.
That's kind of a weird question.
Yeah.
Does WoW overemphasize winning?
News at 11.
Doing better? That is kind of a weird question. I guess I'm trying to think what he's referring to when he's talking about that, because I get maybe he's talking about the leaderboard that you get obviously during the match, accessible through clicking on the minimap icon, and then at the end of the match where you've got like, oh, I got top damage in this battleground, but all I did was gank on the par. Maybe that's what he means. But I guess this kind of relates to what we were talking about earlier with the talk about changing the battleground rewards to reward people who actually do the right thing rather than the path ganker.
Sam Duggan, what the F, man? This is so fast. Can't even read the responses. Zarheim's like, that might be the best problem we could have. You'll be able to replay the full chat once it concludes. So good for that.
That's what happens when you have like 6 people all answering questions.
Yeah.
Oh man, who should
crashed.
the next war chief be? Jaina.
Yes.
Why not?
Yes. Why not? That's a brilliant idea. That's the best idea you've had all day, Josh Allen.
Somebody grab apple cider.
Maybe they snuck it in there.
You're going to have to, because mine just crashed.
How much does feedback from players affect design decisions, especially after release? Ghostcrawler says a great deal. Obviously, we're willing to consider more sweeping changes for expansions than for patches or hotfixes, but I'd say 75 to 90% of our changes are trying to address player feedback in some form, which, side note, does not necessarily mean that they're going to do exactly what you say. They're just trying to figure out why you don't like it so that they can fix it.
Exactly.
You so may not always know exactly why, so they just take your words and then they put them through this machine and it spits out and it goes, this is what that person actually wants. Comment from guest. Any chance we'll see more weapon proc weapons next raid tier? Ghostcrawler said, I'd say right about a 100% chance.
That's quite a good chance.
Usually the last tier has a whole lot of those in it.
Can you bet on this in Vegas? Are we able to bet on proc weapons in World of Warcraft? Is it happening?
I don't know whether they would be opening betting considering the odds that we've just been presented with. That would probably be.
I feel like we've got good odds on this one. Anyone want a side wager?
We've got a tip.
I'm in for a 20. All right.
Apple Cider Mage, go for it, sorry. Says, is there going to continue to be more story development involving more of the female world leaders, quest NPCs, and such? Pandaria gave us people like Suna and Taushi, but we also have Alaria, Tyrande, Moira, etc. And Fargo responds, we got to spend more time with Jaina lately, and Moira gets a great moment in 5.3. I really like Moira. He adds, I'm also a fan of Zayla of the Dragon Lord. Do you guys think she should survive the war? Feedback from 5.1 shows that not everyone was happy with Tyrande being so hot-headed. We're trying to get her back to her impulsive War 3 roots, but it didn't seem to have played well with fans, so I'd like to revisit Tyrande at some point. Now, Sylvanas, up to something, I guarantee. Admiral Rogers seems to strike a chord with me. Yeah. I don't know if that's really dramatic go-for-wordy. She's always up to something. Admiral Rogers seems
dramatic over made it more dramatic.
Yeah, exactly. She's pretty badass. We've also spent a little time with Marisa Windrunner, who's coping with the loss of her husband. All interesting story hooks. We can only follow up on so much story, but we'd like to spend time with interesting characters whenever gameplay allows. More Sylvanas. More Jake.
Do you think less CC spells with larger effects or many CC spells with smaller effects are better for the game? Interesting. Brian Holinka says, we understand that many players would like to see less PvP, but with more impact. The challenge is that in PvP, players have to be able to kill each other. I think he meant to say CC instead of
yeah,
PvP.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah. It's kind of bad if the lead PvP developer is like, we understand players would like to see less PvP.
Yeah. This stuff is not popular, but we're trying to make it better.
He says the challenge is that in PvP, players have to be able to kill each other. Healers have to be strong enough that they have an impact when they're healing, but that means the only way to get a kill is shutting them down for a short time. It's definitely a goal of ours to improve the crowd control experience in the future. That's all I ask.
Stuff in my hand.
Just make. I don't care what you do. Just make it better.
Make better somehow.
Not a ton of an
Trike
answer there,
stealer.
though. It's like, hey,
No, not
really,
an
no.
answer.
We hope it exists. We'll
guess.
make it better. All right, move on to the next one. Comment from Trike Stealer. Trike says, wild pet battles released. Wild pet battles, yes. Wild pet battles. Released after 5.0. Wild battle pets. I'm dyslexic. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. Left. Released after 5.0 have gradually gotten less and less breeds. Is this because of the pet gem slots Cory talked about? If not, will pets continue to be released as monodual breed pets? Mumper says, no particular reason, to be honest. We try to vary up the breeds based on what type of pet it is. Reward pets are locked to one breed for obvious reasons, but we plan to keep adding lots of multi-breed pets in the future. Good to hear for pet lovers.
Pet lovers.
Here's one from my dog.
Jack!
Jack!
Get down, Jack!
About item upgrades coming back next patch with the Thunderforge thing in Throne of Thunder. It's really annoying to have to upgrade items that you might replace. Everyone in a top rating guild feels obligated to upgrade all of his items, but that feeling that you don't have a Thunderforge version of something will rankle a lot. Can you maybe implement a limit of how many times you can upgrade? Limit on how many upgraded items you have equipped. It will bring some sort of strategizing and make item upgrading much less annoying. Also something, geez, dude, keep it short. Also something that bothers
paragraphs.
me. Heroic 25-man Lei Shen awards the same amount of Valor points as clearing Temple of the Jade Serpent. Like, seriously? Don't you think that if you can clear Throne of Thunder 25 Heroic, it's worth a Valor cap? So you don't have to do
Jack
random
is
heroics.
so damn wordy.
Jack, honestly,
Seriously.
you need to feed that dog. He's getting really antsy.
I'm gonna put him outside.
Just put him down.
Watcher says the major change we're making to that was harsh.
Wow, harsh.
The major change we're making to item upgrades in 5.3 is drastically reducing their cost. We agree that it felt pretty bad upgrading a non-best in slot item in 5.1 and then end up replacing it. 1500 Valor was a pretty hefty investment, but at 250 Valor per upgrade, you can realistically upgrade all of your gear over the course of a tier, which should change things a bit. Resources of Valor, part of the intent of the system, is to encourage players to experience a wide variety of content. Heroic Lei Shen drops slightly better loot than Sha of Doubt, so it's not like killing him is strictly under-rewarded. Exactly, yeah. That said, we are significantly buffing the amount of Valor rewarded by activities like challenge modes and heroic scenarios in 5.3. Yada yada, you're going to get more Valor for doing stuff.
More Valor, less stuff.
Yeah.
Read
That
the
could have
Green
been
Fire
the answer
Quest.
right there.
Yeah.
From the Xantar. Read the Green Fire Quest. Lessons learned. Any plans you can elaborate on for other classes? Mages, please. No. Shamans, please. Fargo, Dave Kosak says, we love class-specific quests, especially the ones that really sell the fantasy of the class and feel epic. Feedback on the Green Fire Quest has been great with two exceptions. One, nobody liked the hook to get started with, so we should revisit that, although we definitely wanted Green Fire to be exclusive. And two, many complained that the last fight was too difficult, although we also got feedback from many players who had loved the challenge. Unfortunately, really strong class quests take time to make, a lot of time, so we have to pick and choose our moments. I wouldn't expect to see a lot of class off in the future, but hopefully we can shine the spotlight around onto Shamans.
People complaining about the last fight being too difficult. Wait a patch. You're gonna get better gear. Quit crying. Get better at your class.
Next one up from Jack
Bad Warlock.
Ramita. I personally feel like the seasonal events are great fun, but after having completed all of them on multiple tunes, as well as each year tried to, I can't read this like this the whole thing. Okay, tried to get new pets. I become slightly bored with them. I've thought and wondered, why aren't there every couple of months some sort of small event that gratifies groups of players for completing tasks? Maybe it's some sort of scavenger hunt or or bloodbath. Like what if the third what if the third Tuesday of each month a random event was on the board at org, and gods came down and aliens and reptilians took us away. And then there was a UFO that flew in and Dave Kosak grabbed the Bozak and Zarheim smoked the wacky tobacco.
You and your Bozak.
And then Mumper responds with, this is something we've been thinking about. Random events. And we would like to have more things like this. The fishing tournaments are great examples. We have actually been thinking about a pet scavenger hunt just to find time to implement it.
Next
So
up,
couldn't that question just basically be like, hey, the seasonal events are cool. Couldn't you guys do more like events, like weekly?
Listen.
What do you think of that?
I do like 500 Q&A shows on a weekly basis. No one can make things simple like that.
That would have been nice and clear and concise, and then they could have said like, yeah, we're really thinking about that, and we might get that to you.
Yes.
Eruptor.
Here's a clear and concise one. In regards to the Dark Animus encounter, how did you imagine the large anima golem would fit into the encounter, since every strat basically ignores them? I'm excited to read this. Watcher says, using the large golems can allow you to buy more time before the animus itself reaches 100 anima, but Crimson Wake was probably too punishing, such that the DPS loss from having to avoid it wasn't worth the extra 20 to 40 seconds on heroic. Correct. Also, the Dark Animus himself only has like 20 million hit points, so you can just sort of murder him. It's more than that, but yeah.
Comment from Dread again. Any chance you might see a full-fledged, PvP zone that's not trying to be a BG? Something more like the 5.2 dailies, with the entire zone focused on PvP, maybe with quests and capturable areas and stuff like that. And Brian Devson, Holinka, responds, along with a lot of players, you see the appeal of large epic PvP experience that a lot of players are pining for. Unfortunately, the nature of server imbalances has made this challenging on a lot of servers in the past. We definitely like the idea as something big, huge, and epic, and we talk about concepts all the time. Dota Battleground, please.
The problem I have with that question is there a way we could see a PvP zone that's not trying to be a battleground? Like, what if there was a PvP zone that was exactly like a battleground?
What if it was a PvP zone that was exactly like the world? Like a PvP server or something crazy like that.
Exactly.
Next up from Nicholas Green says, I saw an article about Garrosh questioning his being corrupt. It had some pretty good arguments that sided against it. I'd post the link if it were allowed, though I'm not sure if I am, so I won't.
Thanks.
Good idea.
Thanks. The way it is being built up seems to point towards corrupt, though. What is your take on that? Fargo says, so many Warcraft villains are corrupt or possessed. Garrosh, he's just a bad apple. Everything is a weapon to him, even the Shah.
I like that. I'm glad that it's not, oh, Garrosh is just misunderstood. No, Garrosh is a dick, and so we're going to kill him. Freaking question.
Okay.
Next up,
What is the most design intention in future patches? Jewel crafting, because I have it. The advent of phasing in the game in Wrath and increased use in Kata and Mists of Pandaria has been good. It's allowed to show some permanent results for quests and such. Will phasing be used more in the upcoming patches and expansions to show the results of questing in a more permanent manner that doesn't affect lower level characters' leveling? Cory Stockton says, there are lots of things about phasing that we like, also a number of things we'd like to solve. We're hoping to introduce some tech to help groups of friends be able to play together, even if they are in different phases. Stay tuned.
Ooh.
Yay.
Yay!
It's getting serious.
Good. It's just got real. John says, will there be a final legendary weapon in MOP, or will we just get legendary power through many different items? To which Dave Kosak responds, oh, hells yeah, you're getting a glorious orange item. Rathion is true to his word.
But he doesn't say weapon.
Item. Item. It could be a hat. Could be
I just
a
want a
ring,
glorious
braces.
orange. Can I get a
Don't we
curious
all
orange?
want a glorious orange?
I just want an orange. Like actually
An orange.
Orange.
The fruit.
Yeah.
A glorious one.
Comment from Maves says, how do you feel about encounters in LFR that have their key mechanics completely changed from regular modes? Watcher says, ideally we try to keep the differences between LFR and normal to a minimum. It lets players potentially get used to the mechanics of the fight on LFR, and that can carry over their experience over into normal. And it lets veteran guild raiders better guide LFR groups. In some cases, however, there is no way to realistically salvage the original mechanic. Imagine a version of Dark Animus that required all 25 LFR members to maintain specific positions Sounds like a nightmare already. And each handle their own anima golem in a raid-wide coordinated fashion. That just sounds like a complete clusterfuck.
As soon as it says requires all 25 LFR members, like that's enough.
That's it. You said that, and I just got shivers. Like, I got the cold sweats.
He could have just said Dark Animus, and that would have. Okay, no.
Oh, sorry, sorry, my bad. I totally threw my hands up. Steven says instant heals in PvP are ridiculous at the moment. Any plans to adjust this? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Instant heals, responds Brian Holinka, interrupts and crowd control breaks are all very interlinked, and in order to change one, we'd have to change them all. It requires a lot of change. Yes.
Circle of life. DPS to healing to CC to DPS to healing to CC, etc., etc.
Rounded goals. Exactly.
From tier. Ogres as a playable. Which class needs buffs the most? Mine. I wonder which mine is going to win, actually.
This is actually
the first one.
I have to show you.
Tier.
Oh, can I can't wait. I just put
Ogres as
the question is, which class needs buffs the most? All the answers are mine, which is
which means that it's warlocks. So anyway, ogres as a playable race. Any chance of this happening, however remote? Ghostcrawler says they actually consider them for Cataclysm. Got to the point of trying to figure out what ogre ladies look like. Ugh! Ugh! Good point, sir.
Yeah, noted, duly noted. Matt says, when will we see Sargeras? To which Ghostcrawler responds, you are not prepared.
Wait.
I can't do
Does that mean that Illidan is Sargeras?
Gopher. Cute Gopher. Yes.
Next one from XY0. XY0 says, this might be a little specific, but I love the dialogue options you get as Alliance with Jaina during the Shield Wall quest line, where you first meet with her in Anduin in Dalaran. Do you think you guys would ever include that RP mechanic again in future quests? Fargo says, truth told, most players skip right over that and click randomly. So imagine that. So as far as we can tell, but we definitely
players are impatient.
But we definitely like a lot of flavor. I don't think we'll always include that as a quest mechanic, but we'd like to have more places where you can pick a character's brain.
Interesting. Speaking of Illidan.
And look at the, I don't want to get the answer.
Look at the answer.
I gave it,
Oh no! Any chance we will see Illidan return soon? Also not prepared. Inevitable. Go far.
Arkan Gallant says, any chance of tabards getting their own form of storage eventually? I have so many clogging up my bank. Ghostcrawler says, high chance. It won't be 5.3 or 5.4 though. So
yes, eventually is a very accurate measure of that time period.
Yeah.
Comment from Bo Beast GC. Do you really love crabs? Zarheim says, what kind of marine biologist turned game designer wouldn't?
Well, quite.
I'm glad he had to answer it for him.
That was my question. Why is he answering? Is he just like, wait, I've got the clever answer here. Let me answer. Maybe I don't know. Maybe GC had to go take a bio break or something. This is going on too long.
Eric Heidelberger asks, is there any talk of moving to a division system for arena rankings, e.g. COD? We certainly think there are some benefits of those division systems, like providing intermediate milestones for all players. True. Ultimately, you still get to a situation where you feel like it's hard to improve.
Just do it like StarCraft.
Just make it into StarCraft. Make StarCraft Ghost already, and we could all go home.
Can we just make this game be StarCraft? Rain TG says, does Rastakhan support what Zul and his followers are doing? I know he didn't believe Zul's visions at first, but now. To which
God, there's a lot of lore questions. I'm really glad we started this show called Conspiracy Craft, where we talk about the World of Warcraft.
I know.
Who would have known that you guys really cared that much about the story? You're like the 1%ers, because apparently everybody just clicks through it all and doesn't give it a crap.
Dave Kosak says Rastakhan was only humoring Zul until the Cataclysm struck. Afterwards, Zul commanded a lot of respect amongst the Zanalari. Rastakhan's empire is sinking into the sea, and only Zul has a way out. I think he supports the Prophet. We'll see more of the Zandalari someday. Ominous.
It is ominous.
Ooh, comment from guest. Guesses. How has the usage of Twitter affected your decisions to receive questions, feedback, and requests from players? Ghostcrawler, back from his bio break, says the best thing about Twitter is it forces players to focus on dialogue box pop-up. It forces players to focus their feedback to the most important things to them to be very brief. Maybe they should use Twitter for this like.
Yeah, maybe they should use Twitter for this chat.
That's it. Just dial it down to this. That allows me to communicate with a lot more players than I ever could via forums.
True.
It's true.
Yeah.
People cannot be concise about it.
Yeah, they can't a million tweets about one thing. Another guest comment, what if players can kill a player of the same faction? If the price was to lose rep with your faction and eventually be at war with your faction just to get more targets, so be it. I'd gladly exile myself to start more world PvP. Brian Holinka responds, one of the best things about World of Warcraft is the natural animosity you feel for the enemy faction and the kinship you have with your allies. I'm not sure creating an environment where anyone can kill you at any time would be fun. See the DK plague incident earlier, like last year.
This poll they just did is actually really interesting too.
But doesn't that kind of like, hasn't there been a lot of speculation? There's been some speculation amongst players about actually like, you know, having the Alliance and the Horde come together at some point.
I think there's been more third faction speculation.
I feel like people have been talking about that. I don't know. Like, yeah. All right.
This poll they just did is actually really interesting.
What are they doing now? How far are you in the 5.2 raid content?
And cleared some normal is in the lead, with cleared normal and some heroic right behind that, and LFR actually being third. I guess it says in queue for LFR right now, so maybe people were like, well, that's not
taking that very literally.
Also, it says 4% said Raiden is hard, which is a lie because 4% of people have not even
4% of the people reading this have killed Raiden and established that he's hard, or killed Heroic Leishan at least.
Question here. I lost it. There it goes. Any news on, from Derevka. Any news on the character model updates for the old races? Ghostcrawler says, that sound you hear is Chris Robinson, our art director, going door to door trying to find what room we're doing this interview in so he can do me great harm for even considering answering this question.
That's good.
So, yes. In a word, let's assume that means yes. Lan Vuivra? Sorry if I pronounced that badly. Any plans to allow players to adjust settings for particle density from other players' spells? Need to see boss spells hard through everything else in a raid. Ghostcrawler says, totally agree. We had a decent handle on this last expansion, but it's gotten out of control again. We have
Christmas
a meeting tomorrow,
everywhere.
we have a meeting tomorrow, in fact, to discuss solutions.
Good, because I'm not changing out of my green fire just because some asshole thinks it's poison.
Jack's back.
That must be really awesome on Horodon with all the green stuff on the floor.
Jack's back.
Jack's back.
What are your feelings about RPPM trinkets? The general opinion in our guild, top 10 25-man guild, is that why not just say your guild if you're that?
Yeah, why not?
Is that they're bad for the game? It's simply huge RNG, which is not. It's because he's not actually in a top 10 25-man guild. It's huge RNG, which is not even balanced between classes. Having or not having procs on pull on Leishan Heroic, for example, can make or break, which force guilds to wait to make sure that RPPM trinkets will proc. Ian's calling him out on it. He says, that sounds like a bit of hyperbole to me. You're saying you intentionally wipe Leishan pulls when not enough trinkets proc in the first 15 seconds? I am highly skeptical. We did add protection against streaks of bad luck to the various Throne of Thunder trinkets, and they're generally the overall strongest options currently available. We're still fine-tuning their design, but the so-called RPPM trinket model allows for more interesting gameplay decisions, particularly where skilled players can react to procs and modify their actions accordingly. Individual players may experience more variation, but on a raid-wide level, trinket proc luck is incredibly unlikely to meaningfully vary to a degree that would affect your entire group's success or failure. I have a lot of words to make about that one, but I'm not going to make them right now because
I told you to put that dog down. He's a filthy liar. Jack is a filthy liar. Comment from guest. Epic pet soon? Question mark. And if so, is it just going to be through an item like Epic Pet Battle Stone or something more interesting. Mumper says, current plan is to introduce a couple epic pets in 5.4. We are working on a cool new way to obtain them as well. Pretty hyped about it.
Interesting. Just too soon, Executus. From Retro Dragon, from a lore perspective, going into expansions and even content patches, it's becoming more important to refer to outside material, especially with the last few novels, to fully grasp what's going on in the game that goes beyond supplementary material. In the future, are we going to be seeing more of this implemented in the game itself, especially with scenarios filling some of that role currently? Dave Kosak responds, I'm not sure that statement is true with regards to Pandaria. We kicked off the expansion by showing the war heating up with the destruction of Theramore in-game. If you really want to know what's inside Jaina's head, you can read the novels, but otherwise it's pretty much in-game. War is on, a new continent is discovered, let's roll. Now, whether or not the Theramore events were adequate is another matter. They definitely needed a little more setup and context, but we're getting there.
Wow, I really can't believe the amount of lore questions they're getting asked here. Good thing that we have a show called Conspiracy Craft here on GameBreaker.tv. We just started off talking all about World of Warcraft lore. It's amazing how that happens.
Remarkable.
Let's see. Comment from eGeek84. Thank you for making a game that's gotten me through some tough times in my life. World of Warcraft. Your psychiatrist, your healer. It's here for you. And given me many wonderful, memorable experiences. Been playing since vanilla, and I will always be a Warcraft player and a Blizzard fan. So thank you. Ghostcrawler says, folks like you are why we do what we do.
You keep picking out the sappy ones. I think
you're you do. Yeah. And leaving us with the PvP ones. So Dennis Mooney, speaking of which, says, with the 5.3 PvP changes, it was mentioned that a player in full tyrannical gear will be able to evenly match a player in full heroic raid gear in PvP. Why is it that raiders will have a somewhat easy time getting into PvP content, but PvPers won't have such an easy time getting into raids due to their item level being far behind that of a normal or heroic raider? To which Brian Holinka responds, in the context of instanced PvP, battlegrounds and arenas, PvP geared players will have a distinct advantage, but the item level and itemization on PvP gear does allow players to get a foothold into PvE. The main point on both sides is that your gear should feel useful when crossing over. In the case of PvE gear and PvP, we felt the lack of resilience made the gear almost useless, which indeed it was. Correct. PvP power for the win.
And right now, it's better to gear up for PvE by doing PvP anyway, so QQ more.
Exactly. I would love to see the item level like bumped up a little, like just to normal mode level on Conquest gear, but that's just because I'm lazy and like doing PvP and don't particularly like grinding LFR.
Olivia D. Grace, lazy, reads no books.
Another PvP question. Are the changes to have a base of 65% resilience a way to make fights last longer? I don't know about anyone else, but I liked how fast kills were back during the level 60 days. You are crazy. You either won or lost. Now it's like you win only if you are outnumbered or if the other person has a healer with him. Just curious as to why they increase the amount of damage players can soak. Brian Holinka says, we rarely hear players say that people aren't dying fast enough. It's more common for us to hear that players die too quickly, which is very true.
Yes. I like how he says rarely rather than never, which is what I'd have said. Yeah. There's that one question, I guess, so that counts as rarely. The Shah of Happiness would like to know, where is Pierre? Look at the little sad. There's not a very happy face for the Shah of Happiness.
I don't even see an answer for that.
There's not even an answer for that. So Pierre's whereabouts is just, aww. So Kyle says...
They trolled him. They trolled him with the question with no answer. Where is he? No answer.
Aww. Where is Pierre anyway?
Oh, it's actually down a little bit more.
Is it really?
Next question. Cory Stockton says...
I hope it's... Yay! I hope it's for Pierre and the other engineering staff to go into patch 5.4, apart from the Skyclaw, which you mentioned earlier wasn't going to happen unless they fixed it. Meanie.
Dun, dun. All right, go back to Kyle.
Kyle? Kyle. Are there any future plans to develop systems that make constant actual character progression beyond gear possible? One of the coolest things about making a tune your main in EverQuest was the alternate advancement system, which I'm sure more than a few of your community members and devs have had experience with. This system attached inherent value to staying with your main and also made your main character feel unique. As tiers and expansions come and go, the AAX and points / perks you earn stay with you. There are so many points to go for that you have limited limitless access to continued character development. Line breaks, people. I love WoW, always have, always will. However, I feel like a lot of the RPG and character development is just not there. I can level 200 to 90, and the only difference, other than racial bonuses, is the gear I wear, spec I pick, 1 of 3, and the talent layout of 7 choices. It feels more like doing a loadout for Call of Duty than a character I have invested years of time into.
Seriously, the last 2 sentences were all he needed.
That's it. That was it.
Yeah,
that was it.
Brevity, people. Brevity and line breaks. Half of the Titan's Ghostcrawler response was something like AA's I am told. I was not an EQ player, an EverQuest player. We still like the idea of paths or something like them to reward players' power that isn't tied to levels or gear. We have a lot of progression systems that aren't power, say pet battles, that work pretty well. God, more stuff to do on one character.
All right, coming from Cash Money Inc. Cash Money Inc. says, when will Necrotic Strike be fixed? Desmond says, we have a hot fix in the works to restore Necrotic Strike to its previous values on live. It wasn't meant to nerf them, but fix a problem with Necrotic Strike and base resilience. So fix. Coming.
Wasn't interacting, now is.
Beautiful picture of Deepwind Gorge and Twitter comment.
Lack Pack is how I'm choosing to pronounce this. Says the rigid structure of raiding makes it an extremely organized hobby. Thank you for calling it a hobby. Do you think you could ever do flexi group size raids? Never mind, I don't like this guy anymore. Ian says it's an interesting idea. There are a lot of challenges and questions we need to figure out, though. For example, Elegon works fine with 1 person per pylon, and Elegon works fine with 3 people per pylon. What does Elegon look like with 1.4 people per pylon?
I'm like waiting for the punchline. What does Elegon look like with 1.4 people?
No, that's exactly the problem, is that there's mechanics that just don't scale well with whatever random group size you happen to piece together.
We have discussed it on the Legendaries several times. Guest comment. With MAP, there was a vast improvement in lore-stroke storytelling with lore walker cho narrations and the lore objects. In which ways are you going to continue to improve storytelling after MAP? I'm glad you like Cho, says Dave Kosak. A very talented voice actor, Jim Cummings, really brought that character to life for us. Trivia. He was also Minsk in Baldur's Gate series. We're really happy with how those events played out. It's optional content, so it's not in your face, but a lot of people took the time to do it and were rewarded with some fun stories. Lore Walker Cho may not accompany us into other expansions, but we'd like to keep rolling with a similar system.
See, confirmation. We're going to kill Lore Walker Cho in the final raid.
Ooh,
he's not going to accompany us in other expansions because we're going to kill him because he's actually the final boss of Pandaria. He's on the cover. That's what they do.
My God, that would be amazing. Actually, that would be so cool. Just quickly, that would be.
And actually, it's Chen Stormstout on the cover, but it doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, right.
It doesn't matter. It's a panda.
Whatever. They all look the same.
Yeah.
Comment from Venturian.
Go ahead.
Will you ever let us find out where Mancrick's wife, Cancel, was? Spoilers. She's dead.
What?
What?
And Kosak even says you can visit
her grave in Northern Barrens.
Sad times for Mancrick.
Guest says, is there a possibility of centaurs becoming playable? Cory says, they would only be playable in Barrens and Desolus.
Centaur content coming in patch 5.3 to the Barrens. Okay, moving on. Any plans to make the LFR queuing system allow you to queue for more than one at a time? Yes! Not for 5.3 though. Yay!
Eventually. Comment from
Eventually. That's the news soon.
Is it is it possible to make a Fear Polymorph Cyclone instant cast, but with CD to try help with the high amount of CCs in game at the moment? Desmond says we like the idea of cast time crowd control. Crowd control should be powerful and comes at a cost. Cast times are something players can counter. We'd definitely like to see more cast time crowd control spells, but a problem exists with melee since cast time spells don't feel good as melee.
I'm hoping he means they'd like to see more of the current crowd control spells have a cast time. Not that they just want to put more crowd control spells into the game.
So we're going to take the current spells, we're going to add a whole load of casted ones to them, because that'll totally help. Yeah, it does need to happen, that. It's just too easy to CC.
This is from Linda. LMAO at Bashak. Which class needs buffs the most? Zaram, you have no idea what it's like to sit next to him every day.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Ev Source says, is there a possibility of arenas going cross-realm? Please. Not sure if you mean making cross-realm teams or cross-realm ladders. In both cases, we think they are good ideas, and there's a strong chance we will move in that direction. Yay.
Cross-team ladders. Interesting.
Yeah. Hang on, did he say cross? Did I misread that? And he said, he does say cross-team ladders. I misread that and said cross-realm ladders. Maybe he meant to say cross-realm ladders.
Maybe. Either way, Matt Andrew Detling says, have you ever considered doing a false ending for an expansion? Like having a final raid set up and then having it relieved that the bad guy you were fighting wasn't the true villain? To which Ian says, as I recall, most people figured Illidan was the ultimate antagonist of Burning Crusade, and that is a shady answer, sir, because he was, but then you ran out of content too early, so you had to make up Sunwell.
Shady. Or maybe he means that Illidan is actually the ultimate antagonist of a future expansion.
Comment from Retro Dragon says, what happened to the Trials of the High King quest that was proposed even before MOP was announced? Fargo says, the first trial, the Trial of Patience, was in 5.1. Player response wasn't 100% positive, so we really went back to the drawing board. And the next one on the Trial of... So basically they pulled it, right? They pulled it.
Yeah.
He says it isn't coming out until 5.3. Less of a trial and more a demonstration of loyalty that moves the whole alliance. Wanted to do them as scenarios. The question is whether or not scenarios are the right place for this type of content. What do you guys think? I don't even know what he's talking about. So,
comment from guest regarding players who quit World of Warcraft. What tactics or ideas are being made to keep or attract the former players back? Ghostcrawler says, we have tried things like the Scroll of Resurrection in the past and may do so again. The risk of focusing so much on former players is it risks our current and very loyal players from feeling like they aren't valued, which couldn't be farther from the truth. Longer term, we want to focus on making it easier to get to the good stuff in the new expansion. Getting excited about MOP, then logging in and remembering you were in Blade's Edge doing Agrila dailies and having no idea what to do next or how or when or how long to get to Pandaria is quite the bar.
Yeah, fair point. I mean, if you realize you've got a level for maths levels, 30 levels, that's going to be a bit of a downer when you've just bought the new expansion. Totally. Good point. Skilled Guy says, Combat Rogue is clearly not a good spec for PvP at the minute at all. Sustained damage is barely noticeable, and there is no possible no cooldown burst possibility. Wow. There is no possible no cooldown burst possibility by design. Killing spree is jumping on pets minions, hardly usable in 3v3. Are you going to bother trying to fix a spec for PvP or just focus on subtlety? Holinka responds, it is challenging to make all three specs of a pure DPS equally viable in both PvP and PvE. In most cases, we want to ensure that at least one of those specs is competitive and improve the others when possible. It is a lot harder to change class than change spec, but we appreciate that players do enjoy some specs more than others.
They're doing another poll real quick, and I just want to point this out. It's what's your favorite place to get WoW news? Fan site, 66%. Yeah!
Come on!
People love fan sites.
Everyone loves the fan sites.
They're probably not thinking of mine, but whatever. It's
good. Let's assume they are.
Question from Falarin. One of the major complaints about the final Cataclysm raid was the lack of new environments. And my stuff moved. There we go. How do you plan to avoid this problem in the Siege of Orgrimmar? Of course, Stockton says, lesson learned. You can plan on seeing new environments in the 5.4 raid for sure, along with Orgrimmar. So there we go. Confirmation. It's not just going to be Orgrimmar in 5.4.
No, they're going to create a new environment by removing Orgrimmar from the game.
We're going to blow the whole thing up. We're going to drop
the whole thing up. It's going to be a crater. It's going to be the Orgrimmar crater.
Comment from Carmelo Estrada says, apparently the Klaxai have told us that our gods are not our gods. Mind exploded. So it seems we have the wrong beliefs of the gods in Azeroth, question mark. Will we see more of this information given to us by the Klaxai to be revealed in future patches? Faro says, your/our typo should be fixed in 5.3. The Klaxai definitely worship the old ones, though. So watch out if there's ever a chance of one reappearing in Azeroth.
So that was a typo this whole time.
That was a typo. Wow.
That's a typo.
That's amazing.
That's brilliant. It's taken them this long.
So it's supposed to be... So right now, I believe it says, your gods are not your gods. And it's supposed to say, your gods are not our gods. Just like, we have different beliefs.
That's kind of like a really important screw-up typo. Like,
yeah.
That just completely changes the meaning.
Wow.
1,000%.
We are bug people. We don't believe the same things as you.
I've heard Missy bring up that like quote.
Missy's just
in our
fallen
chat,
off her
like,
chair
every day. She's like quotes that. Now her mind is exploding.
Literally. Bark Cloud says, do you have plans to address PvP servers where one faction is insanely active while the other is essentially dormant?
This guy is definitely actually Jack.
Brian Holinka responds, Greg mentioned in another answer that we are looking for solutions for zones with low populations and faction imbalances. True.
True that. Comment from Joshua C. Joshua C says, how do you feel active mitigation turned out, and what would you do if you could change it? Ghostcrawler says, we actually like it a lot. We want to make secondary stats like haste is for paladins more useful to all the tanks. We also might do something different with avoidance long term. It's functional, but not as exciting as active mitigation, in our opinion.
I like it. I
like it too. It's fun.
Just make tanks use DPS stats because it's more interesting. MJB Mitch, which I almost misread terribly.
I saw the same thing.
Will you be using scenarios as a way to level our characters similar to dungeons? Cory Stockton says, certainly something that we have an interest in trying moving forward. We think scenarios can fill a lot of roles, and earning XP could certainly be one of them, which is interesting because before they've always said that scenarios were intended to be max level content.
Interesting.
So, interesting.
Yeah, Anani Design says, I love the epic feeling to the pre-Lich King World event where you were involved in it for as much or as little time as you wanted. Is there any plans to bring back world events like that back instead of the one-shot 15-minute events that currently seem to be happening? Ghostcrawler responds, a lot of players have responded that they really miss some kind of big world event. We were a little surprised by how frequently we heard that. So we'll definitely try to work in something epic in the future. When it comes down to it, we'd rather invest our time in something players will play for months than for days, which is why it became much lower priority this time. So let us replay the one-time scenarios. Thanks.
Next up, Apple Cider's back. Apple Cider says, what are your feelings on the, quote, raid fights are trending towards more/too complex mechanics and timers? Watcher says, good question. A constant challenge for us is striking a balance between the desire to see innovative mechanics and new challenges and keeping content accessible and elegant. An encounter can have a ton of mechanics, yet compartmentalize them well enough that they are easily understood and learned. Or it can have a handful, but throw them at you so frenetically that you're overwhelmed. The Dungeon Journal isn't always the most helpful tool in that regard. You may open the DJ entry for a fight like Harden and have your head explode, but the actual experience of learning the encounter only throws a handful of mechanics at players at a time. And
your head still explodes.
Yeah, your head still explodes. And you really don't have to worry about that with that Amani. So Warbear does blah, 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 blah. So basically just saying like they need to strike a nice balance. So that's basically what they're getting at. So also, while we're aware of the prevalence of boss mods, we try to avoid assuming that everyone uses them. Recently, we've increasingly done things like giving bosses visible energy bars that serve as an in-game version of your DBM bigwig's timer for major abilities. Example,
which is, it's interesting that he says that because I talked to him at BlizzCon 09, I think, and I actually asked him, do you guys design things with boss mods in mind? And he says, most of us do, but some of us don't. That was back then. So this is actually a change that they've done where nowadays they're just trying to make things more accessible to players that aren't running boss mods. But you still need a boss mod. So that I would say
you still do.
They haven't been super successful in that.
No, it's not very successful. They brought in the big announcement style ones as well, didn't they? In Kata, those appeared, and that's still...
That was actually in Wrath.
Oh, sorry, that was in Wrath. You're right. It's still not really been enough. People still use DBM and will continue to.
From Andrew M, are there any chances you will work on the arena matchmaking in 2s and 3s? I hate joining arenas with another non-geared player and getting put up against full tyrannical geared players with nearly 1.5 our health, 1.5 times our health. Are there any ways to avoid this, like leaving our PvE gear in the bank, or will we just have to suffer until we farm all the conquests from BGs? Brian Holinka says, every player has a matchmaking rating, MMR, that is used to match them against opponents. This rating goes up or down based on whether or not you lose to a higher or lower rated opponent. It's a good system and ultimately tries to give you interesting matches for your skill level. Using gear as a metric for matchmaking could be easily exploited. Which is true.
For sure. Very true. And yeah, you'll start off losing a ton. Don't worry about that. It's normal. Newsbot9 asks, Stian Zaheim, do you feel that delivering the reputation-based story quests as in 5.1 was a success, and will it be used again? Fargo says, I love this question. We got a very positive response to the way 5.1 story quests rolled out over time as he did dailies. It was pretty time-consuming from a development standpoint, but it was totally worth it, as opposed to, for example, adding 40 new randomized blue bangs instead. Expect to see more like that in the future. I think he meant bags, yeah. I'm confused by blue bangs.
Blue bangs.
What do you think of...
Coming from guests.
What do you think
about rare pet battle stones? I have about 7 of a family that I don't need anymore. Any chance we may be able to trade them for other family stones? Mumber says, working on something for this exact issue in 5.4. I feel your pain.
So there we have it. Confirmation. Blizzard developers only change things that they themselves don't like.
Yeah. Noted. Confirmed.
eGeek84, do you guys have any plans to ever make an LFD for challenge mode dungeons? Ian Hazzikostas says, we've generally found that very hard and randomly matched group is not the best combination. Excellent point, sir.
Yeah, duly noted. All 25 players in LFR.
Yeah, exactly.
Comment from LADP, wow. Any words on more possibilities for PvP players to get gold? There are a lot of ways for PvP players to make gold in the game without necessarily doing their primary activity. For comparison, raiding is not the main source of income for PvE players. The farm alone is an easy and efficient way to engage in the player economy and make yourself some money. It's a common complaint that I hear quite a lot, and I don't really understand it, because do you PvE for gold? Surely that costs you gold with all the repairs. Confused.
Comment from Satav says, why the absolute focus on casual gaming? Not loaded
at least he kept it short.
Yes,
short.
Points issued for brevity.
Ghostcrawler come back and says, back in vanilla, a lot of our players were content just to level characters. Just leveling was a huge commitment. In later expansions, even though players reached max level pretty quickly, they could still go back and level an alt. But even if you love alts, there are only so many you are willing to level before you're kind of alone, kind of done with it. Lich King brought achievements, which again provided some amount of content for a lot of players, but just adding new achievements only provides so much additional content. So in Cataclysm and MOP, we decided to bring a lot of players into raiding, which is one of the most epic and rewarding experiences in World of Warcraft. It was a pretty successful endeavor. I'm going to assume that's what you meant, but I'll also add that Heroic Lei Shen and Gold Challenge modes are not as casual as anything we've ever offered in WoW.
As non-casual. Yeah, it's pretty non-casual.
Yeah. Little zing. Little zing.
Ray lapsed.
I have to explain. Go with the name. Go for the name.
Tom Wishofer. Sure. That's how I'll pronounce that. I have to explain this answer, too. It says, would you please make the cutscene before Torto skippable? To which Ian Hazzikostas says, are you sure you want to skip the cutscene? So, okay,
well played,
I first read that, and I was like, wow, Ian's being a dick. But no, that's actually just what pops up, and it says, like, you can click yes, but nothing happens. It pops up and says, are you sure you want to skip this cutscene? And you can click yes, and nothing happens. So that's what he's referring to there. Well played, sir.
Yeah, well played.
Let me skip that.
Yeah, really. Funny story, but yeah, just do it, okay?
Yeah.
Putis comments, should we hope for even more voice-acted quests in the future? Because they definitely made questing feel more alive. Also, a sound option for dialogues volume so we can hear the bosses quotes a lot easier. Dave Kosak says, we like being agile and versatile with our quest content, and we rearrange events right up to the very last minute. So I think in the future we'll continue to limit voiceover to very important key story moments and not use it everywhere. That said, we're glad you enjoyed the voiceover work in this. We think it really gives those moments a lot of gravity. Yeah.
Next up, comment from guest is, will battle pets caught in the wild be tradable? Mumber says, great question. This is something we went back and forth on quite a bit before MOP shipped. We are very happy with the call we made, though. Love the fact that players are actually out in the world catching pets and not sitting in town.
Indeed. SDS Justin says, the 7th Shah still lurking? And Dave Kosak responds, you'll hear about it in 5.3, but that won't be the end of it.
Question from someone who picked the wrong caster class says, which mage specs are you focused on making viable in PvP? And what about PvE? Just curious that I know what to play / not play. Wow.
The mage is the answer to the second half of that question.
That's a very loaded question.
Yeah.
Brian Holinka says, we don't specifically say this spec will be the PvP spec. Rather, players find what performs best and gravitate toward that spec. If other specs are not as competitive and we have ideas on how we can improve them, we do. So he's basically saying your question is silly, just play the game.
Play the spec you like, you will do better at it. Comment from guest, Tyralion and Alaria are still absent after all these years. Did they find a portal to a tropical island planet and are sitting on the beach drinking cocktails with little umbrellas in them right now or something? Fargo says, I like that answer, but I suspect they opted to do something heroic instead. We'll come back to them when the time is right.
I have a theory that they got one of the portals on Draenor working again and went through that to actually fight the Burning Legion directly. That's
Interesting.
my theory.
Good theory.
It's probably
Philip
stupid.
Evans
I'm sure
is-
Missy will tell me I'm dumb.
Yeah.
She'll find something, right? Philip Evans says, Path of Blossoms had major potential. Glyph to add a stacking snare route could have seen much better usage for PvP. Maybe a return? Desmond says, it certainly is an interesting idea for the future.
So no.
Thanks for that answer.
Well, we'll think about that.
Yeah.
So, next question. Coming from True. Any plans on addressing monks? Huge ramp up time in PvP and to a lesser extent in PvE. Desmond says, it's just the nature of how monks work that their burst cooldown works very differently. It's an attempt to make them feel different and unique.
I think it's funny that he calls it a burst cooldown. Question from Maxilis. Whatever happened to Koltira Deathweaver? As a Death Knight, that's one plotline that's left me hanging. Mograine can't be too happy about one of his best getting kidnapped either. Dave Kosak says, poor Koltira, I guess you should never cross Sylvanas. You'll be chained beneath Undercity for multiple expansions. He's one of those plot lines we'd like to return to eventually, because, see, what's happening is Koltira is actually chained up down there, and he's siphoning off information from Sylvanas about how to be a Dark Ranger, so that when the next expansion comes out and they add the Dark Ranger class, then Sylvanas can teach everybody, and Koltira can teach everybody on the Alliance side. Done.
If you're right, they're going to just be freaking out watching this. What?
How does he know?
How does he know? K-San says, will the Barons BG interfere with the leveling process in the area? Nope, says Dave Fargo. It doesn't impact the leveling content, and low-level players are neutral with the Corcoran, who will consider you beneath them. You're welcome to try take one out, though. That would be entertaining for all of about 1 second.
Comment from Tiger says, in pet battles, I feel you made us fight legendary pets too early. In future expansions, are all the pet battles going to be legendary? Mumper says, lots of things we can do to make fights interesting outside of a pet being legendary. Thanks for the mysterious answer.
Yeah.
There's lots of things we
Well,
can
there's
do.
a lot of stuff that we...
Yeah,
I'm just
there's
not going to tell you any of them. Moving on.
There's
Next question.
So many things. Comment from guest. Your thoughts on Rathian? Is he a good guy or another Deathwing, but just a better manipulator? What do you think, says Kosak? Maybe Rathian really has the best interests of our world at heart. Or maybe Rathian's view of best interests doesn't sync up with our view. She's an enigma, man. That is an enigma of an answer as well.
He's totally Han Solo.
Good job.
Totally.
Frozen.
Comment from Cornetto says, will there be any spectator mode added to Arena RBGs? Desmond says, we don't have any plans for spectator mode in Arena.
Sad face.
Boo!
Boo, you put one in the Brawlers Guild. Put one, what rage? Put one in.
Because it's exactly the same, right?
It's exactly the same. Stop implying otherwise. Just tick the box next to spectator area.
Tick the box.
It's just a checkbox, right?
Next question, can we move away? Can we move away from the alliance as the good guys phase? WoW lore is usually about gray areas, usually no one being the clear good guy, though perhaps not in the manner of Warhammer, in which everyone's insane. Mr. Pandaria, however, has painted a lovely, awful picture of most of the Horde, orcs in specific. Sure, there's Garrosh, but can we please see the Alliance do something despicable so that I can see less Horde are evil Scrolls of Lore threads? Fargo says, good question. Alliance seems awfully good when compared to Garrosh, who started using his own people as cannon fodder and is weaponizing everything he can get his hands on. But there are still gray areas. Do you think Jaina did the right thing in Dalaran? What about Admiral Rogers gunning down drowning soldiers in Pandaria? There's an edge there. And it's actually, we were having an interesting conversation about that in Hip Chat the other day, where it just kind of feels like the stuff that even Alliance players are really latching onto right now is when they get to do something bad.
Yeah.
So, yes, bring on more of the...
Do that. And like when she was shooting... I'm sure when she was shooting drowning soldiers in Pandaria that she was like Shah afflicted or something, so it was like, oh no, I am actually good. I was just shard, like I was all shard all over the place.
That's going to be the excuse all the time from now. I'm just going to start using that. Just like, oh, sorry, I was possessed by a Shah.
Possessed by a Shah. Sorry, I just wiped the raid.
I just shot everywhere.
Comment from Muna.
I think I just shot myself.
Oh, here we go. Comment from Muna. Where do all the baby pandas come from that we get from the pet daily bags? Mumber says, Pandaria, duh.
OMG.
Those are actually children, and you should stop fighting them against vicious animals.
Like child labor, that's not cool.
Another one from Too Many Tabards. Go for it.
Gosh, here's a predictable question. Will there ever be account-wide tabards in the same way you handled mounts? Very good chance, but probably not in this patch cycle.
You start to break down from all the reading, right? It's like a lot of reading. You start to break down. You get delirious. You can't even see it. You're just like, all right, comment from Balzig, the Bozak, Balsack. The raiding battleground gladiator mounts was a great idea, and chances of bringing them back because after you get 2400, there's no reason to play apart from getting your cap. Also, now T2 is gone from 2200 tiers, from 2200 theirs. No.
Proofread your crap, man.
There's no reason to play at high ratings. Whew. Yeah, I agree. Hopefully this one will be easier to read. Hang on. Yeah, I agree that we need more rewards to keep most players going outside of gear and rating. But we think granting player power based on rating made it difficult for players to break through that threshold. All right.
Yeah, fair one.
Island. I'm going to take a break for 5 minutes. I'm going to go.
Next up, fear many Alliance players have is that everything that the Horde has done to the faction up until this point will be laid on Garrosh and all will be forgiven. Can we safely assume that this will not be the case? To the Alliance, the Horde has a lot to answer for without Hellscream. Fargo says, I addressed this somewhat in above answer. How should we depict Alliance justice without deleting a bunch of old zone content? Also, we still need to make sure a Horde exists after Garrosh falls because, they're half our players. But certainly going forward into the next expansion, we can carry forward the themes of Horde trying to rebuild itself from an absolutely terrible war and the Alliance, a unified, victorious juggernaut, taking the initiative in the challenges that lie ahead. Orgrimmar is going to be a bloodbath. They are going to destroy Orgrimmar.
They are. They're so going to destroy it. It's going to be the Orgrimmar crater. It's going to be over. The Horde is going to have to move to Thunderbluff.
Yeah, it'd be Thunderbluff. With Bane as the new war chief.
Ooh, a brave call from Josh Allen.
Well, if they're moving to Thunderbluff, it makes sense.
Yeah, fair point.
Or we can all go to Silvermoon and not be able to fly.
Yeah, that would be hilarious. They
can just tick the box.
Yeah, just tick the flying box. I don't know why they didn't do it already. Why are you releasing pet battles and heroic raids in 5.3? Isn't that too much for casual players? I guess the hardcore players are going to get rich selling them, and the drop rate of the TOT battle pets, from what I have seen so far, is a little low. Any chance to increase the drop rate? No pets are exclusive to heroics in 5.3. You were probably thinking of an older PTR build.
Okay.
Yeah,
Coming
moving on.
from LADP, wow. Will there be any spectator mode added to pet battles? Bumper says
5.3. 5.3.
Wow.
5.3.
I actually totally forgot about that. But yeah.
Me too.
So pet battles get a spectator mode.
They can tick that box.
Brawlers Guild gets a spectator mode. Arenas?
Yeah.
Nobody likes arenas anyway.
Nobody does those. Nobody wants to watch people doing
who's
arenas.
Who's going to start shoutcasting pet battles? Who's on board for that shoutcasting pet battles? Let's do this. Josh,
yeah.
This.
It'd be great.
Question from Anharu says, or maybe Anhiro says, am I supposed to be creeped out that Rathion implanted an eye thing in my forehead? Kosak says, I sure was.
Yeah. Reasonably. Guest comment. I understand that making all 34 specs viable for PvP would be a mess from the design and even from the player point of view. But some cases where the spec differences are minimal. Fury and combat assassination come to mind. Oh, Fury and combat stroke assassination come to mind. Seems like it's just a lack of interest on your part. Can we expect some philosophy change on that matter? Ooh, burn. If we can do something to make a spec more competitive, we do. But class balance is heavily intertwined. Bust to one spec often act as nurse to another spec and vice versa. I feel like Brian Holinka needs one of those IT crowd style things where someone rings up and asks these questions and he just has a recorded message playback.
IT department, have you tried turning it off and on again?
Exactly.
Unplug it, wait 10 seconds, plug it back in. Comment from Wojo0. How do you guys feel about the state of burst in PvP? Desmond says, we're going to make some adjustments to damage and healing overall through PvP power in 5.3.
Well, that was more like a
I just don't have it in me. This is so much reading. The viewers just watching this thinking this is easy. At this point, I'm getting delirious trying to read all of this.
Comment from Whammo. Thank God there's 3 of us that can trade off reading these, by the way. Will we see the second set of Burning Crusade raid pets in 5.3? Cory Stockton says we do intend to make a second set to fill out the Burning Crusade expansion, just not sure when yet.
Comment from guests. Hang on a minute, I'm sure we had this. How successful do you feel the legendary quest line has been so far? And do you plan on keeping it like this in a future expansion? We think it's been a great vehicle for keeping people engaged throughout the expansion and rewarded for participating. The final items, both the epics in 5.3 and the legendaries in 5.4, should be well worth the effort. It's been very successful. We'll do something like it again. Yay.
So there we go. Doing the same thing again in the next expansion.
That just very
in the Burning Crusade, in the Burning Legion expansion.
I don't know why when you read that, I just pictured like a PR, like marketing person on the side being like, we think it has been a great vehicle for people. All right, next one. Zarim says the fellows are wrapping up. Final responses to some of the questions you've submitted. We're amazed by the sheer volume and awesomeness of the questions we've received. Thanks. Oh yeah, Zarham's he's shocked that the game is popular. We can't believe you guys showed up for the World of Warcraft Q&A.
You guys came to talk to every single of the main developers on our game. That's amazing.
We've been reading the media. Everyone said World of Warcraft was dead. Oh, we've been so worried.
We didn't think anyone would show.
They're just sitting around all day waiting for your calls. Nobody ever calls, so we just didn't think anyone would show up. Comment from Taylor Clark says, can we ever expect to see a more in-depth pet battle PvP system? With how popular they are, would you guys be open to adding a win-loss tracker? I see that we are getting a win tracker, but a rating or season type thing would be amazing. Mumper says we are taking a watch and see approach on this. We added a weekly quest and some tracking to 5.3. If that pans out successful, we will continue to add to the PvP side of pet battles. So
with spectator mode.
They are
unlike actual PvP.
Yes, which doesn't have a tick box. They're working on the tick box, Olivia.
They better be.
From Sean Maples, why do you balance or try to around arena yet reward more for RBGs? Melee can't get into RBGs. It's unfair that casters get a gear advantage in arena for being overpowered in RBGs. Holinka says the synergy between spells like Death Grip, Solar Beam, and Ursul's Vortex. By the way, 2 of those are boomkins, so thanks.
Yeah, really. The synergy between boomkins
has created an environment where melee are at a big disadvantage. We have been working on reducing the effectiveness of that combination without destroying those specs in other areas of the game. which is why we got Ring of Peace. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, good job there, guys. I mean, I hate to bitch, but wow.
Comment from guests. Any plans to add unattained mounts to the journal similar to pets? Member says it's something we want to do. We have actually already done some work on it. It would work very similar to the pet journal. No time frame on it, though. It's a big undertaking.
There are some great add-ons that do that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Concerning quest-based lore progression, some events like the Battle for Undercity were taken out of the game, I think he means, for being misplaced in the narrative. Should I worry about other quest lines ending in epicness being taken out of the game? Fargo says, actually, the problem was that Battle for Undercity played out terrible when you were the only person doing it and you had to wait sometimes as long as 5 minutes for it to start. These days we do it as a solo scenario. It was a cool lore moment. It would be nice to reintegrate into the game, but the effort it would take to build would mean building one less scenario for the current expansion, maybe a heroic scenario someday, winky face. We reserve the right to pull stuff out of the game when it just doesn't live up to gameplay standards. We're trying to make sure content these days will survive the test of time, i.e. if you play the Isle of Thunder sequence 2 years from now, it should still feel pretty epic.
Yeah. Interesting.
Next up from Drolux says PvE players use PvE to gain gold. As you just stated, why can't PvP why can't PvP players use PvP to obtain enough gold to at least repair? I am fully geared and have trouble repairing as I refuse to do PvE quests. It's personal preference. Desmond says the need for gold incentivizes you to engage in the world beyond PvP. We think the game is better if you engage in different parts of the world. Hence,
yeah, to gain gold, I like unless you're calling like fishing and farming and stuff.
PvE. This is player versus
the auction house. Is that PvE? Is everything that isn't a battleground
in the environment?
PvE? Yeah.
Or just like bet people 100 gold they can't beat you at duels. Done.
Like they are.
Looks like that's a wrap up.
Oh, there's one more.
Oh, there's one more.
From Caro down a little bit. Says what motivates Garrosh exactly? Fargo says, Garrosh had a vision for the Horde, a vision of orcs rising up from the desert they were stuck in by Thrall, living up to their potential, seizing power, and carving out a new homeland for themselves. Sees the orcs as a great people who would like to claim Kalimdor for his people by any means necessary. When he started seizing power and winning victories for his people, he was blindsided by questions from the quote-unquote weaker races of his Horde. His Horde. He doesn't tolerate disloyalty. In Pandaria, he sees everything he needs for his Horde to live up to its potential. The other races can either serve their place or be crushed beneath the wheels. It's all going to come to a head very, very soon.
Exciting.
And that is the final question.
That is it for the Blizzard Q&A. Be sure to watch Legendary. I'm sure this is going to get into this week's show. Some of it is a lot to go over. So make sure to watch Legendary every Thursday night at 8 PST. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Brought to you from... Forget it. I had a joke, but just left it. Olivia D. Grace. Follow her on Twitter at Olivia D. Grace. Come over to GameBreaker.tv and check out all her World of Warcraft stuff. Yeah. Josh Allen, aka Lore. Follow him on Twitter at Devolore, DEVOLORE. Go to tankspot.com, PST, Weekly Marmots, all the other good stuff. Good stuff. You can follow me at Gary Gannon, and don't forget to go to audible.com/gamebreaker to sign up for your free 30-day trial and get a free audio book. Loves the Audible. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as we did, and we will see you